Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining today's Energy Talk. I'll just make an announcement in Russian regarding the translation. Уважаемые участники, для того, чтобы прослушать вебинар на русском языке, пожалуйста, нажмите кнопку «Перевод» на панели управления и выберите, соответственно, русский язык. Вы тогда будете слушать вебинар в синхронном переводе на русский. Спасибо. I think we're going to start. It is a pleasure to welcome you all at our second energy talk in partnership with Trina Solar, dedicated to Central Asia solar PV status update and the latest solutions. By the way, my name is Inessa Shekhnazarova. I'm the co-founder and executive director at Investing Network, which is niche consultancy fostering deployment of renewable energy in Central Asia, the Caucasus, and Black Sea. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items so that you know how to participate in today's webinar. First of all, the session will be held with simultaneous translation, Russian, English, and as an attendee, you will be able to select audio channel to hear the translated audio into in Russian language. To choose the language, you can go to interpretation at the control panel and then choose Russian and click OK. And please note, the recording will only capture the original audio of the webinar and not the translation. Beside that, at any time during the session, you will be able to ask questions, submit questions to today's speakers. To do so, just type your question into Q&A at the bottom of the control panel. As time allows, our speakers will address as many questions as they can at the end during the Q&A session. As an attendee, you can see all the questions. You can even upvote them and comment on these questions. So hopefully this is going to be quite an interactive experience. We have also scheduled a few polls. So once we launch them, please vote, and then we will share the results afterwards. I'm sure this is going to be very interesting as well. We are really grateful to Trina Solar for the opportunity to organize this webinar for all of you. And we will have today Lim Chang-Boon, Head of Product and Marketing at Trina Solar Asia Pacific, and Andrew Gilhooly, Head of Trina Pro APAC region, speaking today alongside our eminent guest speakers. Aliya Salimjorova, Renewable Energy Project Manager at Kazakh Invest. Bahodir Amonov, Infrastructure Investment and PPP Specialist. Bakhtiyar Nurmagomedov, Solution Manager of Solar Inventor Department at Huawei Technologies in Eurasia region. I would like to thank all of our speakers as well as Kazakh Invest for the support. And of course, thanks to our media partners, Review US, Vogue News, and US Daily. Okay, so before we get started, I would like to launch the first poll so that we know our audience better. You will see it in a minute. Please answer the question, what part of the solar industry do you work within? Manufacturer, developer, EPC, consultant, or other? Thank you very much for voting. You will be able to see the results in a minute. I'm going to end the poll. Yeah. Thank you very much for voting. So I've shared the results, and today, while you have a look, I'll introduce what we are going to focus on. So we are going to focus on both planned and ongoing solar energy projects in Central Asia, particularly in Uzbekistan and in Kazakhstan, as well as the latest technological solutions to foster deployment. And I'm delighted to introduce Aliya Salimjorova, who will speak today about the Kazakhstan's market. Alia, thanks a lot for joining, and the floor is yours.
Dear Inessa, dear participants, it's my pleasure to be a part of these energy talks. I'm Alia Selimzhuarova, and I'm responsible for power sector at Kazakhinvest. Let me first of all to thank all the organizers of this important event. So I present a national company called Kazakhinvest, which acts as a single negotiator on behalf of the government of the Republic of Kazakhstan on investment issues. Through our network of regional and foreign representatives, we provide full range of services to support investment projects on the principle of one window, meaning to assure support of investment projects starting from the idea, going through implementation period, and we also provide so-called post-investment period support. So let me first of all to share my screen with my short PPT. So, hope you see it. So here you can see the main roles of Kazakhinvest in support of the investment projects. So, in frames of my intervention, I would like to give a short overview on renewable energy sector development in Kazakhstan. And I would start my presentation from the indicators that were set in order to decrease CO2 emission in the country. On the slide, there are two documents mentioned and which actually set the important targets to foster the development of renewable energy sources. They are strategy of Kazakhstan development till 2050. And the second very important document is the concept of transition to a green economy, which set targets of renewable energy sources development 3% in 2020, 6% in 2025, 10% in 2030, and 50% by 2050. By signing Paris Agreement, Kazakhstan also set a target to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 15 below 1990 levels by 2030. So, Kazakhstan has a great potential for the development of renewable energy sources. Here on the slide, you can see some of them. And of course, on the right side of the slide, you can also see the important steps framed in kind of a timeline of the renewable energy sources development, meaning the development of legislative framework of renewable energy sources. So the start was in 2009 when the law on renewable energy sources development was and support was adopted. Afterwards, from 2013 till 2017, the country had so-called fixed tariffs mechanism, which were replaced by the auction bidding mechanism with the introduction of auctions with so-called ready-made project documentation in 2019. And last year, we achieved our first indicator equal to 3% of renewable energy sources in total generation of the country. The total installed capacity of renewable energy sources is already 1,635 megawatt, which equals to 115 renewable energy facilities. To mention, through 2018-2020, more than 170 companies from 12 countries participated at the auction. Financial Settlement Center signed 15-year PPA with 58 companies. At the same time, we achieved a substantial tariff decrease, especially for solar, more than 60%. So why there is a great interest to participate in renewable energy auctions? Mainly, it's a state support, which, among other things, ensures the conclusion of a long-term contract for the purchase of electricity, as well as the provision of so-called investment preferences. So, power purchase agreement concluded with the auction winner for the period of 20 years since 2021. And moreover, we have annual tariff indexation after a year operation of the station. The formula is 70% for the exchange rate of the national currency to convertible currencies and 30% for CPI. This formula aimed at a reduction of the risk of investors when the exchange rate of the national currency changes. Moreover, the auction winner is awarded by priority dispatch and exemption from payment for services of electric grid companies. To mention, this year, due to uncertainties and pandemic situation, many renewable energy projects faced with problems with the delivery of equipment and workforces. And to mention, lots of works were on hold. From Kazakhinvest side, we supported projects in many cases, including work with the local authorities, even on ordinal issues, as many things started to be online since March. It's already 1 year that we are working in such environment. And actually, not everyone could be on track with new developments, but I need to mention this: despite of the pandemic situation, the investment contracts were concluded, and we pleased to mention that a number of projects in renewable energy sources were commissioned. One of the important measures that were taken by the government of the Republic of Kazakhstan is with regard to renewable energy projects. We had a prolongation for all the companies who are implemented projects in renewable energy, in construction of renewable energy facility. We had a prolongation of the PPA for 1 year period, and we also had a prolongation of the deadlines for providing a copy of a notification on the beginning of construction and installation works. And so usually when you have some kind of difficulties, you have a penalties. But for the current year, due to the COVID-19 situation, we didn't have such kind of penalties. And one of the most important things which happened to support renewable energy sources also this year, renewable energy sources last year were included in a list of priority activities in our country. This means that all the companies implementing projects in the field of renewable energy sources are provided by almost all types of investment preferences, including the tax ones. In accordance, on the right side of the slide, you can see the state investment support for renewable energy sources. In accordance with the legislation of the Republic of Kazakhstan, legal entities that are implementing investment projects on construction renewable energy facilities can conclude investment contract or investment priority contracts. The last one differs from the investment contract by the amount of investment. For the setup of new production plant, it's 2 million monthly calculated index, which equals around 13 million USD. And expanding of a new plants, it's around 5 million monthly calculated index, which is equals to 32 million USD. Thus, the conditions of state support means measures on the type of investment contract. In frames of the investment contract, as you can see on the table, applicant can apply for the exemption from custom duties on import and exemption from VAT on import of raw materials, which is granted for a period of 5 years. Moreover, it's a state-in-kind grant. It should be noted that the maximum amount of the state-in-kind grant, in accordance with the legislation, should be not more than 30% of investments. So under the investment priority contract, companies are entitled to almost all types of preferences, as I mentioned before. First of all, it's an exemption of, first of all, it's a package of preferences, includes exemption from custom duties, state-in-kind grant, and tax preferences. For the creation of a new production facilities is CPM for 10 years, land tax for 10 years, and property tax for 8 years. For the expansion or renovation of existing facility, it's only CPM, but for 3 years. There are some, what were the results in on renewable energy sources developments in 2020? Here on the slide, you can see some kind of results which we had based on the auctions which we had last year. So there are 27 participants was on the, they were Kazakhstani and foreign companies from 4 countries. There were 16 investment projects were chosen for implementation, and the total installed capacity, as you can see, was around 147 megawatt. Here you can see the types of facilities also. And I would also mention that the total volume of requests received from the auction participants was more than 493 megawatt. It means that the volume of requests exceeded the volume of supply by almost 2 times. That was a very great interest for the wind power plants construction. It was actually the biggest interest from the investors in such types of auctions. And the requests exceed the volume of supply by almost 5 times. There also was a tariff decrease. For wind is 27%, for solar 14%, and for hydro 13%. On the slide, I just wanted to show what kind of steps we have as soon as we have the auction winner. First of all, it's a conclusion of PPA with Financial Settlement Center for 20 years. And here you can see the schedule, how to make it actually. Then is a submission of a financial assurance of the PPA within 30 days after PPA conclusion. Then you have the conclusion of investment contract with the Committee on Investment of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And also you have some kind of obligations with regard to the start and commissioning of the project. Start of the construction works on the site, you should start it in due time. It's also indicated in PPA. So for solar projects, it's 12 months. For wind projects and for biogas projects, it's around 18 months. For HPP, it's 24 months. And you should commission the power plant in a due time as well. For solar, 24 months. For wind and for biogas projects, 36 months. For hydro projects is 60 months from the date of signing of the PPA. And you also should comply with the generation schedule and facilitate the qualitative forecasting. And here, I just want to share my thoughts on the further development of renewable energy sources in the Republic of Kazakhstan, especially for the solar power plants. First of all, what is essential for us is the energy saving mechanism development, because the number of renewable energy facilities is growing very fast, and the interest of investors from all over the world for renewable energy sources is growing day to day. And for us, it's very important to create the working energy saving mechanism. Moreover, we have a very high request for the balancing capacities. And one of the balancing capacities which we want to develop is a hydro program. And moreover, we have the demand for gas pipeline projects. And of course, we want to increase the renewable energy sources in total generation of our country. And we, as you remember, we have a clear indicators for renewable energy developments. Of course, we want to have low-scale renewable energy sources for small and medium enterprises. Currently, our company is working on under the mechanism and want to involve different governmental authorities in order to implement such kind of large-scale renewable energy projects. Of course, we work on the energy efficiency development. Of course, we need to support innovations in renewable energy field and energy efficiency field. And of course, we need to work under the improvement of legislative framework. To mention, since the adoption of law on renewable energy support, every year we have some amendments in the legislation in order to provide best market conditions for the investors. And every year we make new steps in order to make our legislation more flexible. For instance, this year we had an amendment which prolonged the PPA for 20 years instead of 15 years. Moreover, we had tax preferences, as I mentioned before, for renewable energy facilities starting from February 2020. So a lot of work is done, but of course we are not going to stop here, and we will follow our way, and of course we will create more and more flexible conditions for the investment support in renewable energy field. Here, I just wanted to mention some work which is done by Kazakhinvest to support renewable energy projects. And to mention, we have so-called three-layered collaboration. First layer, how it works actually. We have the ministries and government authorities and local partners who send us kind of a request for the investments. Based on this information, we select the investment opportunities and local partners for the investment project implementation. As a second layer, through our regional and foreign representatives and embassies, we approach foreign investors and strategic partners and propose to consider the investment opportunities for participation in investment projects in energy sector. We have a lot of consultation seminars with the potential investors, and we are open to consult you on all the issues that you have, and we will be glad to provide you with all the support in order to have you on Kazakh ground, and we will be glad to provide you more information on renewable energy sources development as well. As a third layer, we give our support for foreign investors in deal structuring. in project implementation, of course, in conclusion of investment contract for obtaining of investment preferences. And of course, we support our investors in collaboration with local and governmental authorities. So this kind of support can be provided by Kazakhinvest in order to support investors in Kazakhstan. And so here was a just short overview on renewable energy sources development in Kazakhstan. And I would like to thank you for your attention, and I will be glad to hear your comments and questions afterwards. Thank you so much.
Alia, thanks a lot for presenting. That was really interesting. We'll answer the questions coming along at the end during Q&A session. And meanwhile, I would like to give the floor to Bahodil, who is going to present regarding solar developments in Uzbekistan.
Thank you so much, Inessa. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the Investing Network as well as to Trina Solar for organizing this webinar. And I'm really excited to hear about the development of the solar energy sector in Kazakhstan from Alia. Thanks for the very informative presentation. And if you let me, I would like to make a brief presentation about Uzbek solar market, and I hope that you can see my screen. Get full screen. Okay, I hope that everyone sees the screen and I can go on, right, Inessa? Just to confirm from your side. Great, thank you. So when we talk about renewable energy, or especially solar energy, it's very important to mention about the recent reforms that being happened in Uzbekistan. So, for example, we can see that the reforms which started from our president when came to the power in 2016, new president. There was great reforms have been made in energy sector as well. For example, in 2017, there was established Uzbek Gidroenergo, which especially works with hydro projects. And then as well, due to the, in order to secure the energy sector, there was a established Uzatom. I mean, we have some plans that maybe that in the near future there will be built some nuclear power in Uzbekistan. And then in order to make the work of the energy sector more effective, there was created Minister of Energy, who is responsible to oversee policy side of the energy development. And also there was a very, very important reform in energy sector. It was a reformation of the Uzbek Energo, which was monopolist back then. And then in 2019, there was adopted law on renewable energies, which set the general rules for generation and grid connection. So if we talk about more specifically about the institutional reforms in energy sector, so you can see that before there was only one entity which was a monopolist and the regulator in the energy sector. It was Uzbek Energo. There was three directions of Uzbek Energo. One entity was Energo Sotush, which was a single buyer and wholesaler. Another one was Uzelektroset, whose responsibility was to dispatch and transmit. And also there were 14 territorial joint stock companies, which also referred as local distributors of electric energy. And then in 2019, there was a presidential decree on the strategy for the further improvement and further development and reforming of the electric power industry of the Republic of Uzbekistan, which played as a source for establishment of the Ministry of Energy. And the Ministry of Energy has four kind of directions, or in general three, because two power generation joint stock companies, one of them is thermal power plants, and another one is Uzbek Gidroenergo. And also there is national electricity grids, whose main responsibility includes operation and development of electric grids, export, import, transportation, and interstate transmission of electric power, and also plays as a single power purchaser from entities that produce electric power. So if you have read some news about the energy IPP energy projects in Uzbekistan, all of them sign agreements with national electricity grids as a single off-taker. And also there are a regional power grid. It's also a joint stock company whose role is the management of regional power grids entities and distributing and selling electric power to ultimate customers, so households. So here I would like to mention about the plans of the government of the Uzbekistan by 2030 in energy. And the plan was prepared by the support of the ADB as well as the World Bank. ADB hired Mott MacDonald, if I'm not mistaken, who worked on the energy master plan of the Uzbekistan. And by combining those two documents, Ministry of Energy created its own document. So according to the plan, according to the capacity plan by 2030, there are some old generating plants which are especially in coal and work on coal and gas, which are planned to be decommissioned. The total capacity reached to 6.4 gigawatts, which will be decommissioned by 2030. And also we have some plans to introduce additional generation capacities in hydropower, renewable energy sources, and I'm pretty sure that people who are interested in renewables are aware of Uzbekistan's ambitious plans to reach the generation capacity of renewables in solar and wind power by 5 and 3 gigawatts respectively. And when we talk about the current available power, yeah, it's only about 13 gigawatts, and considering the demand and economic growth of the country, it is not enough to cover the demands borne by the population and entities. So also we have some plans, as I mentioned, to build coal-fired power plants and nuclear power as well, just to diversify energy sources, because I think relying heavily on renewables may not be the best solution for the government who used to use electricity coming from traditional sources. So if we go a bit details about the capacity planning, so here you can see the annual statistics. I mean the ones which were in 2019 and our expectations by 2030. So thermal power plants it's expected to reach about 58% of the total energy production. And there's also hydropower plants, which is expected to reach 11% of the total electric production. And the PV power plants or solar power plants, which also expected to reach 8% by 2030, and the wind power, and also nuclear power. Nuclear power, I cannot say anything firm about this because it's all in the plans and it's expected to be discussed with the Uzbek people as well, I think. And so if we are talking about the growth rate, so in 2019, as I mentioned earlier, the total generation capacity was about 13 gigawatts, and by 2025, it's expected to reach at least 22 gigawatts, growing for 9.4 gigawatts, and then by 2013, it's expected to grow another 7 gigawatts. And reaching ultimately 29.3 gigawatts, or I mean, maybe it's just a kind of a minimum, we can say that minimum amount. So it may definitely reach 30 gigawatts, taking into consideration the high interest from international energy players in the sector and their interest in Uzbek market. So there was as I mentioned, there was a study have been done about the solar energy potential of the Uzbekistan, and it was stated that Uzbekistan's location is very good for solar radiation. It has very good solar radiation, and solar exposure rate annually reached to a maximum of 2,126 kilowatt hours per meter square, while the lowest being the 1,121 kilowatt hours per meter square. So it's calculated that the approximate gross potential of solar power in Uzbekistan is 530 gigawatts. So as you can see, it's a huge potential for the government to implement energy projects. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about some projects. As I mentioned, there was a plan to reach at least 5 gigawatts of solar power by 2030, and there are already two very ambitious programs are being delivered with the help of the international financial institutions. One is IFC, and another one is ADB. With the ADB, there was a program, I mean the Scaling Solar program, which is very well known in African countries as well. So the aim of the program is to reach the to provide the electricity, solar electricity, with amount of 1 gigawatt. There was already a pilot project completed back in 2019, where it was very interesting to see that the winning bid offered about 2.7 cents per kilowatt hour, and it was announced back in October 2019. It was UAE company, Masdar Energy. It's a very well-known company, and it's about to construct 100 megawatts of PV panels in Naboi. The construction jobs already started, and there was also given the green light with the success of the first pilot project of Scaling Solar. It was given the green light to do the second phase of the Scaling Solar, which consists of 400 megawatts and 200 megawatt in Samarkand region and 200 megawatt in Jizak region. And when it was posted by Minister of Energy, the expression of interest, 84 international companies and consortiums expressed their interest, and 15 already pre-qualified for to proceed with the tender. It was announced back in December 2020 that 15 companies and consortiums will proceed. And the bid submission deadline is set to March 17th of this year. So it's only a few days left. Also, IFC and the Minister of Energy agreed to proceed with the third and the last stage of the phase of the Scaling Solar program, which is Scaling Solar 3. And in this phase, there will be bid for construction of total amount of 500 megawatts. I mean, part of it will be in Bukhara, Namangan, and Khorazm. Honestly, I don't know which region will produce how much of energy exactly. For example, whether it's going to be 200 in Bukhara, Namangan 200, and Khorazm 100. I mean, I couldn't find information from Ministry of Energy's website on that. So, I think it's worth to mention about the legal document that all of those projects are being delivered. It's a law on investment and investment activity, which serves as a legal basis to do all of these tenders. And as the same path, there is another program with a capacity of 1 gigawatts, which is currently being assisted by ADB. The project is called Sherabat Solar, and it's both of them. I mean, the first phase is in the process because seeing the success of the IFC Scaling Solar, government of Uzbekistan decided to move on with ADB as well on delivering 1 gigawatt of solar project. On February 2020, Minister of Energy announced Sherabat Phase 1 project with a the project of the construction of PV station with at least 200 megawatt capacity in Surkhandarya region. Surkhandarya region is very, from a solar radiation perspective, a very good location. So ADB is about to construct the second phase as well, near side the first phase 1 project site. And in December 2020, so about 2 months ago, the Minister of Energy announced that Sharabat Phase 2 in close distance to, as I mentioned, to pilot Sharabat pilot project. And the expected capacity will be somewhere between 150 to 300 megawatt alternative currently. And the final number will be decided based on the tender outcomes of the phase 1. So it's it worth to wait a bit on that. I think I made a very short presentation, but you are more than welcome to ask your specific questions, whether it's gonna be on the legal or other aspects. So I will be very happy to help you. And in case you are interested, I can also provide you with legal documents which serve base for delivering the renewable projects in Uzbekistan. Thank you for your attention. So I think I'm gonna stop here and pass the floor to the next participant. Thank you.
Thank you, Bahar. It was really useful and comprehensive. I think this provided a good overview of Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, and I would suggest to move on to technical part now, and I'm happy to give the floor to Lim from Trina Solar.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Lim, the product manager for Trina Solar. Once again, thank you, Investing Network, for organizing the webinar today, and thanks all the participants and attendees for the time today. So let me give a brief start off with the Trina Solar with a brief introduction. Just a very brief introduction of Trina Solar as a solar company in the background. So we started in 1997. So we have been in operation for more than 20 years in the solar industry. So just last year, we have listed again in the Shanghai Stock Exchange. So we are a listed solar module manufacturer now with a diversified range of business. At the same time, we are also a very long time and reliable brand in the solar industry. So Trina Solar has been rated top most bankable module supplier for the last 5 years. So next, let me just share some general trends that we see in the solar market now. So starting from the top left corner, we will see that in the next 3 to 4 years, the forecast in terms of the type of technology that's going to be used, we do see an increasing high density kind of technology that will be deployed in the solar modules. Then going down, similarly, we do forecast that, or rather from the third party, they do forecast that in terms of the module shipment, we also will see the high density modules getting more and more acceptance by the different developers and customers on a global basis. Then on the top right is a hot topic on the raw materials. That's the raw material supply in the solar industry. So we do see the active capacity expansion of the different raw material supply. So in this graph is mainly on the glass supply. Then on the bottom right graph, this one is more on what is the forecast on the wafer size that's going to be deployed in the market for the next 3 to 4 years. So as the hot topic on raw material supply, I'm happy to share that Trina is working very hard in this aspect to secure the different raw material supply in terms of the silicon and wafer and the glass and the other raw materials like backsheet, etc. So next, let me go into proper on the more technical specifics. So as we all know, in a PV system or the PV project, we are all looking at the LCOE, which is the levelized cost of energy. So based on this simple equation, from the module supplier or the component supplier side, what we are helping here is in terms of the initial investment, which will be impacted by the module cost and of course the BOS, the module power efficiency, etc. Then on the below part of the equation is on the power generation and the reliability of the system. So this is our current Trina product roadmap in terms of for large-scale utilities and large-scale rooftop. So since last year, we have diversified into the 210 mm cell size. So we have launched a different range of products starting from the 500 watt from middle of last year, and then late last year we have upgraded to 550 watt. And then very fast, we will see the 660 watt that is coming very soon. Please watch out, look out for it. We'll be announcing this very, very shortly. Besides modules for the large scale solar, we also have modules for the smaller ones for the residential and the smaller commercial rooftops. So it's also a change from the previous generation of 158 cell size, 166 cell size. So now we also have it in the 210 mm cell size, which we are offering in the power bin of from 390 to 400 watt. This model is currently available and in mass production. So this is the comprehensive product model list that we have. So on the top half is based on the 166 mm cell size, and the second half of the table is based on the 210 mm cell size. So basically, we are covering a wide range of power bin here, from I would say from about 350 watt all the way to 660 watt. So depending on your application, I'm sure there's one model that will be suitable for your project. So going forward, in terms of the technology trend that we see, I would say most of the solar manufacturers now, we are still based on the three key technology, which is the multi-bus bar technology, half-cut cell, and of course on the bifacial. So each of these different technology will contribute certain percentage to the overall power bin increase of the solar module. So just a bit more specifics on the Trina product portfolio. So this is the Vertex S, as we call it. So this is namely on the smaller panels, which is designated for the residential and the small CNI. So we are offering it in three different variants. DE09, which is a white backsheet with silver frame. Then D09.05, which is our all black, and then just D09.08 white backsheet with black frame. So just a bit of technical specifics here. So it's based on the 210 mm cell, multi-bus bar, half-cut non-destructive cutting, high-density interconnection. So this is a 5x12x220 cell layout. So a quick comparison with what we have in the market here. So you can see we have optimized the dimension of Vertex S so that it can best fit into a small space constrained residential rooftop. So we have controlled the length and width of the module so that we can fit nicely and reduce those risk of the modules being installed too near to the edges of the roof. So similarly, we do a quick comparison with the previous generation of solar module. So using the same size rooftop, and deploying the Vertex S module, we can actually, increase the overall system capacity by up to 18.23 kilowatt for the same system roof size. And in terms of the warranty, Trina is giving the extended, or rather, we are giving a standard warranty of 15 years for the black frame and all black models, as compared to the 12 years for the standard modules. So we are targeting this as for the residential and the small commercial rooftops. So next is on our bigger module, which is targeted for large scale rooftop and ground mounted utility projects. So this is available in both the bifacial and monofacial footprint. So similarly, we have extended technologies mentioned earlier. So starting from the top left corner, we have started to deploy the larger wafer size, 210 mm. And then with the increase in the surface area of the cell, we have also increased the number of bus bar. Now, for all the 210, especially for the big ones like the D19, 20, and 21 series, we'll be using 12 bus bar. Then on the top right is the non-destructive cutting. So if you can see in the market now, I will say most of the manufacturers are offering half-cut cell. So we have improved this cutting technology to a non-destructive cutting by using a low-temperature laser to slice through the cell into half and maintain the mechanical loading of the cell, of the cut cell, to be almost similar as a non-cut full cell. Then on the bottom right will be the high density encapsulation. So what this means is basically, we are minimizing the space between the cell so that we can improve the module efficiency by the 0.2 to 0.3%. Because with the reduced cell gap, we can slightly reduce the overall dimension of the module. So the technical specifics of our high power modules. So as example, this is our 550 watt DE19 series. So same based on the 210 mm cell, multi-bus bar, non-destructive cutting, high density interconnection. So this is based on the low voltage and high current design. So the key benefit of this low voltage and high current design, basically, when we put it into system level, we can see of the power per string power is actually increased compared to others in the market. So in this case study, for site conditions, lowest temperature of -10 degrees, you can actually connect up to 36 modules per string as compared to the others of only 27 modules per string. So this string power itself is an important factor which will affect the cost of balance of system. So we have done evaluation together with third-party DMVGL. So this is based on a one portrait tracker scenario. So we have done it both in US and also in Spain. So overall comparison, we can see that I would say there's 3 key points. So when we use a higher power bin, we use less number of modules and there's less installation to do. So this will reduce installation cost. Secondly, low voltage design. So this we uses less number of strings in the overall system. So there's less DC cables and wiring work. So this will reduce the DC cable cost. Then in terms of the tracker design, by using the higher power modules, we can also reduce the overall total length of the tracker use, and this will reduce the tracker cost. So these are the little bit more specifics on each of these savings. Basically, like I mentioned, we come from the tracker, cable, the DC cabling, and on the labor cost. So we have the specific reports available. So if you're interested, please drop a mail, get in touch with our representative, and then we can share with you more on this assessment. So as mentioned, these are the key saving parameters. So we save from the tracker, we will reduce total tracker length and DC cabling of up to 32% savings compared to the others. And labor cost, because of less number of modules, so we have a lower installation cost, and all these adds together will give us a lower BOS cost, and this will translate to a lower LCOE at the system level. So besides the one portrait tracker, we have also done internal simulation for the other configuration and scenario. So there's a 2 portrait tracker, 2 portrait fixed tilt, 4 landscape fixed tilt. So we do see some consistent and conclusive results showing that by using a higher power bin vertex module, we can achieve lower BOS cost in all the different scenarios. So now we are pushing forward very hard with all these high power bin modules. So we do get some question on, is it compatible with the inverters in the market? So I'm happy to share that we have worked with the various key inverter suppliers. So like Sungrow, Huawei, SMA, all this. So starting from I would say starting from Q2 this year, the range of the models that is going to be compatible will get launched by the different inverter manufacturers, especially for the large-scale utility projects. For the smaller system-wise, we already have lower rated inverters. That is something like 100 kilowatt size inverters are already compatible with these Vertex modules. So lastly, I just like to emphasize again, from Trina and also from the solar industry perspective, we are very excited, and we strongly think that the whole industry is moving very fast for the higher power beam modules, which is more than 600 watt. So there's the Solar Innovation Alliance that is formed, where there are different participants in this alliance that is going to support the whole eco chain and supply chain of moving the industry towards this high power bin era. So of course, from Trina's side here, we are also very optimistic and aggressive. So we are doubling our capacity for the 210 mm module supply. So by the end of this year, we'll be looking at more than 20 gigawatt of module capacity supply for the 210 mm. So lastly, maybe I just share a few like the application that we have mentioned. So this is for residential market, and then this is for small scale or mid scale commercial rooftops, which we can also deploy the solar panels. And of course, for large scale utilities, we have all these kind of large scale utility installation, which I believe from the previous speakers that we see Central Asia is getting very excited on these large scale projects. So with that, I end my presentation. Thank you everyone for the time today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lim. That was really impressive. And I think it's good on this note to launch our second technical poll. I'm going to launch it now. You will see it on your screen. Please let us know what will be the most favorable module power in your next project. 450 watt, 500 watt, 550 watt, 600 watt. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for voting. I will share the results with you, and while you have a look, I'm happy to introduce Andrew from Trina Pro. Andrew, the floor is yours.
Great, thanks, Inessa. I'll just share my screen. Okay. Let me just stop sharing that actually. One moment, please.
Yeah, we can see it now.
Okay, is that full screen?
Not yet, no.
Maybe I think we can reverse this actually. 1 second. That's better. Okay. Great. Well, good afternoon, good morning, everybody, wherever you may be. My name's Andrew Gilhooly. I manage Trina Solar's utility solution business and Trina tracker sales in the APAC region. So I'm actually based out of Melbourne, Australia. So, with that in mind, actually some APAC markets like Australia slowing down somewhat for the utility market. Another somewhat stop-start in terms of tracker deployment like we see in India. It's actually a privilege to be involved in these super exciting emerging markets in Central Asia like Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, which we're seeing really are attracting some heavy hitters the global stage now, like Masdar and Aqua and so forth. And you know, as we saw on Bahadir's presentation, they actually have a surprisingly good solar resource. So we're you know, we're seeing that with the combination of single-axis tracking and bifacial PV, it can really unlock superior financial returns on your projects. So I'm just going to go through some of the challenges that these large format modules that my colleague Lim explained earlier, and how they integrate onto the trackers, but importantly how they can unlock superior value for IPPs and developers, and also EPCs in the marketplace. So Trina is aiming to be a world-leading PV and smart energy total solution provider, as we see on the slide here. So, you know, at our core, we're a vertically integrated PV module manufacturer, but what we saw happening a few years ago was the PV marketplace becoming more commoditized and crowded. So to differentiate ourselves as a company, we saw an opportunity to go downstream and provide complete solutions to our customers. So that's what I've highlighted here, which is our Trina Pro integrated offering of modules and tracker, or our other part of that business known as Trina Tracker. And the tracker side of the business is really a core foundation of this system solutions business that you see on the screen here. So what we're seeing is LCOE reducing globally. It's a recurring theme in pretty much every key global marketplace. So you just see some of the headlines on the left-hand side of the page. And single-axis tracking, especially when combined with bifacial modules, we see a value stacking approach where, you know, 1 + 1 = more than 2. We see that regularly beating fixed axis or fixed tilt solar in terms of levelized cost of energy. And that's really been corroborated by the Singapore Institute for Renewable Energy in an interesting study that they released a few months back. And so we're seeing some challenges in big solar now, especially markets that are somewhat mature in the utility segment. You know, and especially acute in Australia. There's been so many gigawatts of big solar deployed that we're now reaching a bit of saturation on the grid, but not just in terms of grid connection. A lot of the low-hanging fruit and easier sites to build upon have now been depleted or diminished. So, you know, we're seeing sites now, especially in Australia, becoming increasingly more challenging, either in terms of maybe the sites are more constrained in terms of area, geotechnical, you know, the soil might be quite challenging to bore through or pile through. Topography, the terrain might be quite variable, and you know, historically, there's a perception that trackers had to be deployed on completely flat sites. As we'll see later on, that's no longer the case. You know, Trina have even done a 15 megawatt solar farm on a floodplain in Australia. So we're seeing sites now prone to flood inundation going or deploying utility scale solar. I think pertinent to Uzbekistan and maybe especially Kazakhstan, you know, the mining companies are now showing a huge interest in solar. There's a lot of mining in Australia. So, you know, with a big country and mining comes pretty huge distances to deploy over, and the challenges that brings with higher cost of labor and cost to mobilize that labor. And on the flip side, we're seeing a huge pipeline, not just in Australia, but in the wider APAC region. But I guess the point I'm trying to make on this slide is, you know, to unlock this pipeline, as we're seeing the sites becoming more challenging, you know, the hardware manufacturers need to continue to innovate to reduce construction cost and importantly, reduce risk. We see in the bottom right here a chart where we did some levelized cost of energy modeling for Australia, and we compared that to a lot of, we actually quoted 0.5 gigawatt for large scale solar 4 in Malaysia recently. Now, Peninsular Malaysia, you know, there's hardly any land, right? So the cost of land is much higher. Obviously, tracking requires more land as compared to fixed tilt. And so what we see is an opposite result. In Malaysia, it's actually cost effective to compress the rows more tightly. In Australia, where there's no shortage of land and the land is consequently cheaper, you get a better cost of energy to spread the rows a lot wider and boost your energy yield and use a bit more land. But the point on this slide actually is that the more wider we splay out or lower the GCR, the more land you use, the more your construction cost increases. What we see on this slide is just some of the parameters and decision-making points in utility scale solar design. I won't go through every one, but it's the message here is utility scale solar farm design is highly complex and many interrelated and often competing considerations in the plant design. You change one thing to improve it, and it can have a negative impact on something else. So, what Trina have done is we've taken the complex and we've made it simple by integrating our high wattage, low voltage bifacial modules that my colleague Lim presented on earlier, and integrating that into our smart tracker solutions. A couple of years ago, Trina acquired a tracker company that had a deployment record of over 5 gigawatts in every key global market over the past decade. So a really solid track record of deployment, and we've subsequently built that out to over 7 gigawatts. And made that tracker company a wholly owned subsidiary, now known as Trina Tracker. So what we see here is, as I mentioned earlier, I'll just spend a bit of time touching upon the challenges in integrating these larger form factor modules into the trackers, right? So as the modules have got bigger, obviously the wattage has increased, but also the physical size as the wafers and more cells going into the modules have got bigger. So we can see here actually on the 550 watt modules compared to a 500, there's actually a 20% increase on the length. So what that means is, especially when you put them on a 2 portrait tracker, the mechanical field or parameter called chord length gets much or considerably larger. And what that means is, to avoid the modules contacting the ground, you need to increase the height of the tracker off the ground. And obviously there's a non-linear relationship between the height off the ground and wind load. So, you know, as the modules get bigger, it means the mechanical loading going into the system increases considerably. The other consideration is, as Lim mentioned, you know, we're using bigger wafers, so there's fewer cells per module. So even though the watts are increasing, the voltage is actually very low. For the 550s, less than 40 volts under STC conditions. So what that means is that we can, in high temperature regions, we can actually go up to 40 modules in a string. And that means the tracker length north to south increases considerably also. And this increase in length of the tracker increases the propensity for dynamic phenomena like resonance and galloping to take place. So we've had to be really diligent in our wind tunnel testing to implement design features to counteract these dynamic phenomena. And then we also have to we let the wind tunnel testing inform how many piles we need to fixate or anchor the trackers into the ground also. So what we see here are 2 types of tracker that Trina offer. We provide solutions for every site condition. So we'll start with the Vanguard in the top. This is our tracker where we have 2 modules in a portrait configuration. It's specifically engineered for these large format modules, especially with a longer length. And to get around the dynamic effects, we've implemented a multiple drive system with a master in the middle and a slave at the end with a rotating shaft. This really stiffens up this tracker structure to an more than adequate level north to south, and completely avoids any risk of dynamic failure, even though the trackers have got bigger and longer. As I say, we have been specifically designed to accommodate up to 120 modules per tracker. So we can use these, we can leverage and capitalize on these longer strings to save on construction cost. There's no mechanical linkages east to west with these trackers. So, you know, we've got a really good slope tolerance in every direction, up to, well, 15% is standard and up to 30% using a special type of drive. But the other interesting thing is, with 2 modules in portrait, the east to west pitch is double. So you can easily get large vehicles, tractors and so forth between every row during construction. But that's also really good for O&M, for vegetation management and module cleaning. And because Trina is the only module company to acquire a tracker company, we saw this large format module on our roadmap coming much sooner than anyone else. So we were able to steal a march on our competitors in the tracker space and start this wind tunnel testing earlier. And a benefit of that is we've been able to optimize the tracker structure by using the results of this wind tunnel testing. So we can actually get to a very low foundation count, as low as 120 piles per megawatt DC. We say this is the best tracker for challenging sites. We also have or high labor cost sites. So, maybe for some of the more remote parts of Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. We also have a one in portrait tracker called Agile. That's a dual row where one row is motorized and linked only to one neighboring row. We see this as a saving on number of motors per megawatt because you only motorize every other row. So this tracker is actually better for less challenging sites and is actually cheaper in terms of a supply cost perspective. If we just swing back to the two portrait though, as I say, we've got a superior slope tolerance. We've actually got a patented split spherical bearing, which you can see on the videos is how we unlock these sites with variable terrain. And this multi-point drive system, rather than just having one drive in the middle and having a huge torsional load on the torque tube, through having this master and slave arrangement and break points along the entirety of the tracker, we actually greatly diminish this torsional phenomena and ensure that the tracker is more than adequate for these increased wind loads going into it. This slide just compares a Trina 590 compared to a competitor 520. We've just highlighted everything in yellow that drives the balance of system costs. So you can see the 590s are down in the low 40s compared to our competitors almost at 50 volts. This means we can run longer strings. And also we're at 124 piles compared to our competitors at 137. So, we're seeing a saving here of at least conservatively $1 per watt compared to our competitor. And this is just a waterfall chart of how these construction savings are segmented. So, there's a big saving on fewer piles. Most of it is on running the longer streams, as Lim said, and having, fewer combiner boxes and less trenching and so forth. And then there's fewer piles and modules to physically install. So, this is conservatively a $1 per watt saving. We think in high labor cost markets or markets with remote locations, like Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, that could be 2 cents per watt or in excess of that even. It's not just about saving construction cost. We also want to maximize the yield. Trina has independent verification from CGC in China to agree or validate that our claims we have an intelligent tracker controller called SuperTrack, and that can boost the tracker output compared to other trackers with bifacial by, on most sites, at least 3% and up to 8% on sites with variable terrain. This is where we use intelligent tracking algorithms to optimize the tracking angle to really maximize the bifacial output of the modules, as well as in backtracking mode at the start and the end of the days. And as we see here, and as I think as Bahadur mentioned on his earlier presentation, there's actually a really good solar resource in much of Uzbekistan, right? It's not too dissimilar to what we've seen in Gujarat and Rajasthan in India, where we've seen a huge uptick in interest. So we did a lot of modeling there, factoring in the higher land usage required for trackers, and but also importantly the yield gains that you can expect from going with trackers and bifacial compared to fixed tilt and monofacial. The end result of that was we were unlocking cost of energy reductions in the order of 5 to 8% in most cases, which is a significant number. At Trina, we're here to support our customers at every stage of the project life cycle. So during pre-sales, we've got a lot of expertise, having deployed over 7 gigawatts of trackers over 10 years. So we can support our customers with optimizing their layout designs. We can do PV-assist yield assessments. We can review your geotechnical and topography surveys and let that inform our design to reach an optimized design and minimize construction cost. During execution, we can come along, we can parachute in subject matter experts to support your installers during training for the assembly process. We actually come along and we manage the commissioning process at the back end, because we underwrite the warranties. So we actually lead the commissioning process. And then during O&M and after sales, because there's a single point of accountability, Trina providing the modules and the tracker, there's a lower risk profile in terms of long-term performance. I'll just close out here with some reference projects. So we did 602 megawatts with State Power Investment Corp in China. That's the largest single axis tracker project on the planet using our Trina tracker. 103 megawatts in the US. This shows the really forgiving slope tolerance, even on highly variable sites in terms of terrain. In Spain, we've done 190 megawatts with the 2 portrait. You can see the really wide physical clearance between the rows there with the 2 portrait. And in Australia, we're one of the very few companies to have successfully deployed single axis tracking in cyclonic regions. We did 120 megawatts in Northern Australia and Queensland back in 2018 without any incident. So, if you've got a site with a high wind load, don't let that discourage you from considering single axis tracking. That really concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Andrew. I think it's a good time to ask another question to our audience, and I'm going to launch a poll. So the question for audience: will you consider solar tracker in your project to reduce levelized cost of energy? Yes, not sure yet, no. Perfect. So I'm ending the poll and sharing the results with you, which are great. And now I'd like to give the floor to Bakhtiar from Huawei Technologies. Bakhtiar, the floor is yours.
Good day, dear colleagues. Let me please introduce myself. My name is Bakhtiar. I'm Solution Manager of Huawei Technologies, Solar Inverter Department located in Kazakhstan, Almaty. Let me please share my presentation. I would like to be short, but I will try. Corporate introduction shortly. As you know, Huawei is a big company that has technologies not only in IT or IP, but also in the solar industry. We have about 200,000 employees all around the world, and we have localization in 71 countries all around the globe. And Huawei has 61st place in a Fortune Global 500. As I have told, my location in Kazakhstan, and Huawei has a big business here. We have 2 offices in Almaty and Nur-Sultan, more than 400 employees, service centers, and a lot of types of products. Huawei Fusion Solar achievements. As you know, the global solar trends, solutions in the inverter market is divided for 2 groups, for 2 types, I would say. One is a solar string solution, and second is a central solution inverter. And as you can see on the left side of the slide, the diagram shows us that right now and for future years, dynamic is coming more for string inverter technology. So more popular and popular through the EPC companies, some investors and financial organizations. And as you can see on the 2022, the prediction would be that that 61% of the market share would be held by inverter string solution. Shortly about the successful keys in Kazakhstan, we have implemented 4 stations, total capacities 200 megawatt. First, I would say the big giant solar station is Nura near the capital of Kazakhstan, and it has 100 megawatt. It is on the top on the left side. We have also projects for 1450 megawatt on the right side of the slide, and the last I would say project was 10 megawatt using our Huawei inverters. This is shortly about the Eurasia region, especially in Union of Independent Countries and some other partner countries. This is just for reference, one of the largest solar tracking PV plant located in Ningxia, China. So this was one of the biggest and first of the biggest project using the Huawei inverters with a tracking system. Also, as I mentioned, Gulshat station, power station, 40 megawatt. This was, I would say, the first project of solar power station using the Huawei inverters. Fusion Solar Smart PV Solutions. I would like to make accent on this slide because this slide shows us the system, how does it work. So if you can see on the top of the slide, the bifacials plus trackers, this is the one part of the good solution. Second is inverter technology, inverter solution. Third, this is a smart transformer station solution. And of course, step up stations and the grid. As you can see on the middle of this slide, Huawei can provide and provides smart PV inverters. 185 KTL, this is inverter with power capacity 185 kilowatts. Right now, Huawei launched a new product, 215 kilowatt inverter, so it would be brand new and high efficient. But I would like to introduce this a bit later. Second solution is a smart array controller that includes a special data logger that collects information from the station from string level and inverter level side. And of course, third position, this is a smart transformer station, and Huawei provides special transformers for solar power stations with the power capacity 6,000 kilowatt ampere. Of course, all this system need to be managed, need to be controlled, and need to be visible. So Huawei provides also smart PV management system, shortly it called NetEco, network ecosystem, that can contain the inverters, smart loggers, smart transformer stations, and information on the string level side. As you can see on the bottom of the slide, this solution can give to EPC, to investor, to own of the station, high yields, smart O&M, operation and maintenance, safe and reliability, and grid supporting. Before this event, I have made some, I would say, small research. What is the compatible, I would say, which compatibility is with the Trina Solar PV panels, and I have reached that our inverter to 215 kilowatt is highly compatible with the Trina Solar PV panels. On this slide is a small technical information about the equipment, and as you know, on this slide, I would like to show that in Central Asia, in some Eurasia regions, this might be a lot of, I would say, issues and problems with the low temperature at the winter or extremely low temperature at the winter. So how shall we behave on these issues? If you can see on the right side of the slide, I have pointed 4 positions. First, this is the hard environment conditions. I just choose some temperature -35 and +45 at the summertime. So all equipment need to help and need to I would say correctly work under these temperatures. This is not working temperatures of the equipment, but ambient temperatures that can be really be with the nature, etc. Second point, high compatibility. So according to my research, I have found that with -35 temperatures, that for example, for my region, for my city Almaty, this is easily can be. And with -35 degrees, the voltage on the string level using Trina Solar PV panels is below 1,500 volts. So as you know, right now the most popular string solution is 1,500 volts. So we're under the limit. It is a super. So if, for example, at summertime, the daytime temperature, ambient temperature might be +45. This is also would be difficult. Because I would like to shortly introduce this an opinion. If, for example, a lot of sun, high temperature, a lot of sunny days, this is very good for solar PV plants and etc. This is not true actually. This is good, but not fully good. With high temperature increasing also the voltage, so voltage become high. On the MPPT level, the voltage is also under the limit, about 1080 volts. So it's totally compatible with the solution. String configuration. According to this research, if, for example, on some region with the lowest temperature that might be at the winter time would be -35, the maximum quantity of Trina PV panels in one row, in one string, I would say, would be 31 pieces. So you can see it on the position number 3. And the string power capacity might be about 19 kilowatts. So for the regions with extremely with a low temperature at winter and extremely low temperatures, this is a very good parameter. So so this solution would be perfect, I would say. On the position number 4, smart scaling, I have moved my research, and I would like to scale, for example, from string size to 5 megawatt power plant size. So according to my research, I would say that for this region with tough environmental conditions, quantity of PV panels on 5 megawatt station would be about 8,500 well, 8,525 pieces of Trina high efficient modules. And for inverter solutions that Huawei provides, our customer and our partners need just about 25 pieces of SUN 2000 to 215 kilowatt inverter. So this is a very good parameter and very good, I would say, positions to in the project. What about the AC and DC power? So achieved DC power would be about 5.1 megawatt, and achieved AC power would be about 5 megawatt. In the engineering and I'm sure that EPC companies are more making accent on this parameter, is DC-AC ratio. In this case, in this solution, this ratio would be about 1.03. This is, I would say, maybe one of the perfect solution for companies that want is planning to implement some stations. Not limiting on this, I would say that we may scaling this, I would say, PV plant capacity, power capacity from 5 megawatt to maybe 10, 15, and 50, or for example, in our case, 100 megawatt. So easily we can multiply, and this solution would be perfect actually for high yields, high capacity, and I would say optimal LCOE, and of course O&M. I would like to shortly introduce also that Huawei has launched a special product. I would say this is Smart Tracker Controller. This technology can not only track the sun position and move signals to a tracker system, but also can achieve the higher yields by analyzing the land plot. I would say like shading on the land plot, because some landscape can be, for example, smooth, but for example, on these pictures, you can see that the land plot is hilly. So in this case, Huawei can also provide some solutions that would be very efficient in some scenarios. With launching new product, with launching new inverter, 215 kilowatt, Huawei has achieved very high efficiency on MPPT efficiency, I mean level. So as you can see on this slide, the efficiency on MPPT level is about 100% actually. So if more currency, 99.839%. Huawei can also, I would say, provide a special solution to our clients, to our customers, to our partners. This is called Smart IV Curve Diagnosis. So what is it? In some cases, a local grid operator requests some, I would say, researchers about the predictions of the power production or yield, for example, in the future. So in this case, this Smart IV Curve Diagnosis would be perfect, because this system provides you vision of the current level parameters, voltage level parameters, power parameters, and you may make some predictions for future, for example, for future day, for next day, for next week, or next month, according to the forecast, of course. On this slide, you may see the smart shutdown system. This is a new, I would say, invention in our inverters. For 215 kilowatt inverter, it would prevent any overcurrent issues, because sometimes this is very important to not lose power production if for example, some equipment just broke down or felt some overcurrents or and etc. So as you can see on this slide, if for example we have a current on string level 18 amperes and for example 14 strings, and the current would be very high, 252 amperes. So this I would say the system shutdown system would prevent any issues related to overcurrent on the string level. Also, I would like to say that all Huawei equipment apply and I would say held by certification, and of course the TÜV certifications, and efficiency of the equipment is also confirmed with related organizations. One moment is very important also. This is how I would say how equipment works with the grid. I would say stable or not stable. So on this slide, I would like to show that our equipment can support and can provide good operation with weak grid support and with, for example, small signal stability. On this slide, I would like to make some introduction of the solutions that I have prepared with the Trina. So let me please show some, I have prepared some 3D graphics. This is a simple graphic, but I would like to show it. If you can see on the graphics, this is, I would say, a PV table. It consists from two sides of the PV panels on the top and on the bottom. This is the two strings, Trina Solar PV panels. And I would like to show how physically it could be on your facility, for example. So this is a PV table, and I would like to show the string inverter solution, and this is a Huawei inverter. So as you can see here, I have prepared some, I would like to say, simple graphics. This is the way that it could be on your facility. I have implemented a simple metal under construction to access poles, the same actually for inverter. So it might be look like this. I have tried to make it more scaled, for example, for 5 megawatt, but my laptop ability is limited actually, so it's just like this. Continue with the presentation. In conclusion of my presentation, I would say that why our customers, why our partners need to choose Huawei inverters with the Trina solar PV panels. So main purposes and main reasons of this is higher yields, smart operation and maintenance issues, safe and reliability, and good grid forming. So we may and we can provide very good and very efficient equipment to our clients and to our customers. We also provide very good and I would say in some cases perfect service in solutions that need to have some special requirements or maybe some special issues. So this is the reasons why our customers and clients choose actually our solution and might choose also Trina solution. This is all for my presentation. Thank you very much for your time, for your attention. If you have any questions, you may ask me right now or send to my email that is shown on the left side of the slide.
Thank you so much, Bakhtiar. That was really interesting. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but there was one particular question that I'd like to address to our speakers today, because this is interesting. This is from a colleague from Uzbekistan who is interested in Kazakhstan experience. Kazakhstan is a little bit, like the person says, a few steps ahead of Uzbekistan. So it's interesting in terms of knowledge sharing. So the question is, it would be interesting for us to learn more about how grid operator is dealing with integrating utility scale renewable generation capacity without storage to the grid. So what were the obstacles and how were they handled? What is the loss rate due to lack of demand and dispatch? So I was thinking, Alia, maybe you can address this question, and then from technical parts, if our colleagues have any comments, that would be great as well.
Thank you very much, Inessa, for the question. And I would also thank the colleague who asked those questions. They are very interesting and very important. First of all, I want to mention that we didn't solve the problem of energy saving yet. And it's very important for us to solve this issue. That is why since this year, Ministry of Energy, not since this year, actually earlier, we have this problem with energy saving. And currently, in order to increase the capacity of renewable energy sources and total generation of the country, we need to solve the issue first. And that is why we actually elaborated the indicators that were mentioned, 3% last year and 6% by 2025 of renewable energy sources in total generation of the country. We elaborated these indicators in accordance with our grid. How stable should it be, and how we should develop our renewable energy sources in order to secure the grid. And energy saving, it's a step which is high point for us for now, because we need to decide this issue first, and then to think about the increasing the capacity of solar power plants. So I won't say that we decided it, but we think about energy saving when we elaborate our indicators. And currently, even in accordance with the plan of our Ministry of Energy, we want to develop balancing capacities based on hydro and gas, in order to secure that our grid will be stable. And so that's the issue. And the second, you've asked you ask about the penalties when the operator is not able to purchase the renewable energy power. We didn't have such kind of problems yet. So Financial Settlement Center, who is responsible for buying this electricity, they are still implementing their obligation duly. And with regard to, although I need to mention that the companies who are constructing renewable energy facilities, they have obligations to complete their plans in due time. In case, and you have, I also mentioned it in my PPT, that you have so-called financial assurance or performance bond, and it's fully returned upon the timely commissioning of the renewable energy facility within 10 working days from the date of submission of a written notification. If 30% of the bond is retained, if the winner fails to give notice about the start of the construction and installation work, and within time limits, which are indicated for each renewable energy facility. For solar is 12 months, for wind and for biogas it's 18 months, and for hydropower plants is 24 months. And 100% of the performance bond is retained if the winner fails to provide a copy of facility commissioning certificate. Within also time limits, it's 24 months for PV stations, 36 months for wind and biogas, and 30 months for hydropower plants. So I hope I answered your questions.
Yes, thank you so much. And does anyone want to comment on this? Okay. If not, then maybe Andrew, you want to say something?
Yeah, just from a tracking perspective, I think you know, I should probably point out that with single axis tracking, because the panels follow the sun as it goes through the sky east to west. So you know, you're operating at a level that's pretty close to peak capacity output much later in the day. With single axis tracking, which tends to coincide more with the peak demand periods on the grid. So it means with single axis tracking, your propensity for having to curtail output or the proportion of the year spent in curtailment probably reduces because your plant's operating at a better alignment with the peak demand on the grid.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you so much. I think we're out of time, so we'll wrap up here, but we can still address some questions left via email, and luckily a lot of questions were addressed already by typing. I'd like to thank all of our speakers for really interesting presentations and for this discussion. Thanks a lot to all the participants. We will make all the presentations available to you within 24 hours. Special thanks to Trina Solar for making this event possible. And I'd like to thank also Sofia Chanceva, the interpreter, who provided the services today and made the event available for Russian-speaking audience as well. So Sofia, thank you so much. And I think that's it. We're going to wrap up here, and I'd like to take this chance to invite all of you to join our next online event, which will be devoted to, which is Energy Week Central Asia and Mongolia. This is a 3-day event happening online in April. If you are interested in more details, please have a look at the official website. I'm really delighted to invite all of you to join us. Thank you all. Have a nice day. Stay safe and healthy, and see you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.